Hello, my audience. I'm reviewing Star Trek Season 1 pilot. And this pilot, I give it a 10 out of 10. I did enjoy this pilot. And there's things I noticed about this pilot. For one, every actor or actress is played by a white person on the Enterprise that works for the Enterprise was in the show. It's not have any of the color of the people of color characters like that agent character or from the show that would make his appearance in the episode 1 but not the pilot. The pilot has a different cast of group characters. Pretty much entirely the only recurring character that becomes still a member of the crew from the pilot is Spock. Everyone else is completely different, never seen character again. With the exception of the captain from this episode, but that's only because like later in the series they decide to bring him back when he's basically old man there, crippled and retired and stuff. And I remember seeing that episode. So that's when they brought that. That character got brought back later in the series, but he was the captain, the first captain before Captain Kirk, who played William Shatner, the original Captain Kirk. So this was the original captain, and he wasn't playing Captain Kirk. He was playing. I forget what the captain's name in the pilot is. Forget what his name is. But I really like the pilot a lot. But I couldn't help but notice that it is a little uncanny and strange looking back on the pilot now because all of the casts that work for the Enterprise are played by white people, women and male. Not a single person of color it works for the Enterprise within the pilot episode that we know of, that we see on screen, working and wearing the Enterprise uniforms and interacting with people. It is kind of strange for me. I thought it was a little strange because I'm so used to seeing like a more diverse cast of characters within Star Trek, at least with the original show, and a little with and also at least with, I only seen the original show a bit of and a little of Next Generation. I haven't seen the other shows outside of those. I mean, if you count clips online that less than a minute, then I mean that's all I've seen of the new shows that clips online that at least around a minute or under a minute on YouTube that pick their way and upload to YouTube by some people. I don't know who or maybe the studios that bring it to YouTube. I don't know, but I mean, it's good for it. When you see stuff on YouTube, when you see trailers or clips from movies or shows on YouTube, I don't know really what does it, or who does it, how does that work, but anyway, so, that's how I became aware of, that's how I know there are other shows other than the Next Generation and the original show. I haven't seen any of that content or single episode or full episode of any other show other than Star Trek or Star Trek Next Generation. I've seen episodes of those two shows, but not any of the other Star Trek shows. So I don't feel like it's fair to me to criticize them and give my thoughts on those shows because I haven't seen them yet. Some I have interest in, some I don't really have interest in. I mean, the newer shows, personally, I don't really have much interest in. The new shows like this show is called Picard when Picard returns from the series for every time. I mean, it just don't look like that. It looks like a very expensive show, but it didn't look like that great of story or engaging story of Picard bringing back these characters. Based on the trailer I saw of Picard, of season one. It was a trailer to season one. So and so I really like how this whole story told a separate, coherent narrative story and wrapped up and didn't even end it on a cliffhanger. It was exciting, it was intense, and it had like some action. And it was like the characters made smart decisions and good, they didn't have them act like buffoons working on the Enterprise. Or either the villains, the Henrys, on the move in the pilot. So everyone made sense. Like no one was a dumbass written character for cringe or to make the plot longer. It felt like when people have written like a dumbasses for the sake of it, just to make the plot drag on more and driving the audience patience, like modern movies or shows do. Test the audience patience by making up more stupid stuff. This is testing the audience patience, like mine. So that's what I liked about Star Trek. A lot about this. Despite it wasn't played with the original cast that I know and love from the original show, this has a different cast of characters in the pilot than it does in the main show of the series. Like the cast, the pilots played by all white characters that play the Enterprise people. Well, the other episodes that are in the main series are played by a diverse race of characters, not just white people of skin. And it's like that's the biggest change. And also a new captain is Captain Curtis Noah is not the same captain as this captain. He doesn't even have the same personality or different identity. Captain Curtis is more of a ladies' man. It comes across when we first see him in his first when he comes across a bit of a ladies' man. In the original show, this guy is comes across more stone cold and shut off from everybody of a captain, and as a person he comes across within the pilot episode. That's who this guy is. He's basically he's like so focused on he seems to be very obsessed with. He seems to be very he's like not a bad captain, but he's very shut off from people, and sometimes it can make him like seem a bit like a sexist or a jerk to his crew in the pilot, and he wants to get over that wants to grow out of that a little bit by the end of the pilot and start talking to them more as normal people within his crew instead of just like expendable. Like he was talking to his crew, expendable people early in the project. That's because his job is getting to him, and he doesn't like doing it anymore. So he goes on the street and gets his mind hallucinated and stuff, and get in his head and make him see stuff, and these alien creatures, and they're basically running little tests on him, trying to figure out what does he want to make him happy. For some reason he doesn't work on him because he still prefers death, like his end or the real thing. It's because he's like nothing. All of his greatest desires like come in, he gets to see, and none of it really works on him fully, and he just like gets and moves on with his grows out of the tree, and people like expendable and start talking to more like normal people. And that's pretty much where the pilot ends. It was him saying next course for his cruise mission, and him doing adding a little monologue, and like him not in him. You know how Captain Kirk had a little monologue in episodes. Well, this guy doesn't do that. I don't. This guy doesn't have a monologue. Not like Captain Kirk within a lot of the episode samples of Star Trek, often or in the movies. How he do Captain's monologue, and this guy doesn't do it. Yeah, so this guy's a little bit not as he's a good actor, and he's interesting character, but he's not as interesting and a compelling character as Captain Kirk, played by William Shatner. He's not as good of an actor as William Shatner, Ollie. And William Shatner, well, he was I guess and William Shatner was really good as like his Captain Kirk in the show. I thought, and but he was a different character and more compelling character, and I think it was and so all I gotta admit, the fact that the changed a shit ton of characters, and after the pilot, and made the character more diverse cast of characters, and pretty much kept none of the original characters from the pilots, with the exception of Spock, played by the same actor. What it looks like. It looks like only would play Spock in the pilot, and he played Spock. Plays Spock. Lemonade played Spock in the pilot, and he reprised for the rest of the series. So he's the only character you're going to recognize from the pilot. If you're expecting any Scotty or anybody else that you know from the James Cameron directed trilogy that he did with Beyond in the first one called Star Trek, you're not going to see any of those characters in the pilot, and you're not going to see any of the characters from the original show within the original timeline in the pilot, with the exception of Spock, played by Leonard Nimoy. So that's going to be a little strange for you to. So it is actually respectively and very of a slow burn pilot, because it doesn't actually have as much mythology and action and adventure that the show was known for within the main series, and Star Trek Next Generation worked into within its series run, but built upon what came before. So and that's one thing that this pilot has its weakness. So if you you probably will like this as a historian of television to watch this, and but I wouldn't say this is definitely for the Star Trek fans that grew up liking the show, or the J.J. Abrams movies he directed, even. So this is more of his own. I really like this because it's like it's nice to see how things began with which I consider one of the coolest shows of all time in franchises, Star Trek. Although I haven't seen like all the stuff Star Trek, I just think it's such a cool franchise where these shows began was in the pilot, and that's why I give the pilot a 10 out of 10. It's pretty fantastic still, even though it might be a bit of a slow burn, because it is more of a slow pace than what you expect from standard Star Trek. It has more in common with the pacing with the first Star Trek movie than your standard Star Trek pacing. How Star Trek, the first movie was a little too slow and lacking some spectacle, but still how the characters from the show. But they just didn't do a whole lot you want them to do, like go on an adventure or fight aliens or end war, whatever, conflict, whatever, like they would in the show or in the Next Generation characters did. And, they always did something that was very that did something, But in the movie, it's more often focused on showing long shots, and Shaw like shooting long shots in is more of a slow burn and focus on showing how well it's directed instead of having the characters do anything. And that is a problem of the pilot. Is common with the pacing. You wish the characters did do more stuff like the other characters did, like the show was became known for, but that's just not going to happen in the pilot. Probably because it was the first of its kind, but it still is very imaginative for this time because it came out in this 1964 originally, officially, I found out, but it wasn't released in the USA until the 80s of mid 80s, 1988. Wait, that's the late 80s, right? If yeah, so that's when it came out to the U.S. and but it was in a different it was in a different part of the world release so you had to be in a different part of the world in the U.S. to watch it in the '60s. Yeah, that's when that's how old this pilot is. It does feel special, like for me. Like it feels like you're getting to witness history unfold for the first time, seeing how it all began. It is like very interesting to watch of a pilot though. Seeing like how it all started with this pilot. And also seeing how far we've come with Star Trek after the pilot. But so I give this a 10 out of 10, this pilot. I still like it a lot. I have I noticed like things here and there, but they weren't really problems. The things I've noticed that are different from the mythology it became known for. Of the world building and the action stuff. So, of all the things that Star Trek became involved in and how big the franchise would get, and it is kind of amazing how it started. Here, because the stars were so it started it like how it started in this episode was this cast of characters. I mean, yeah. So I I like this pilot. I give it a 10 out of 10 for keeping. I really enjoyed this. I mean, I like Star Trek and I like this pilot, but and I think that's enough said on this video. Why you give it pilot of Star Trek a 10 out of 10. Goodbye, subscribe, like this video please.